This is the ultimate question. What phone should I buy today? Not everyone has $1,000 to spend on a phone, but at $300 or less, this is an interesting choice. This phone is something I wanted because of the screen, but it's a little strange. But let's talk about it first, because there's a lot to talk about. Should you buy the LG G8 ThinQ in 2020? Hello everyone, this is Matt from Real World Review. Check out the social media listed above in the description for some extras. Alright, let's review this interesting device. So this is actually a pretty nice display. Gone is the LCD, which LG actually did a decent job at. The G8 finally has an OLED panel, which wasn't really an issue for me. It is a 6.1 inch flat 1440 OLED display with a pixel density of 563. There is a notch, which LG calls the new second screen. Yeah, I think it's a dumb name too. And really all it does is just adds color to the status bar. The screen is pretty bright, going over 800 nits when needed. The colors look accurate and slightly warm, but that's not a bad thing. And when you turn the screen, there is a very small color shift, if any really. Besides the actual display, LG gives some nice screen gestures, which I always love. To start, locking the screen with the status bar or an empty spot on the screen is always awesome. And then you have the customizable always on display, which kind of lags, but I would assume it's because the refresh rate drops to save battery life. That's what I'm guessing at least. Then you can double tap to turn on the screen. Now, this part I can leave in another section, but let's talk about the speaker. The speaker is in the display, meaning that the screen vibrates as the earpiece. Nothing new there, but it activates for the second stereo speaker, and it's, well, pretty bad. Honestly wish the bottom speaker was the only one that was activated and they left it there. With that said, this is a pretty awesome screen, especially when you compare it to Apple's expensive 828p 6.1 inch LCD screen. Now the battery life isn't the worst, but it isn't the best. The usage has kind of a weird range, but it seems like you could possibly get a 6 or 8 hours of screen on time out of this battery, which doesn't sound that bad. Here are the Geekbench 4 battery tests, which seems worse than they really are. This is a 3500 mAh battery, which seems kind of small, but works perfectly fine in this phone. There is a lot to power on this phone, like a Snapdragon 855 chip, 6GB of RAM, a 1440p OLED display, and a headset jack, but this battery handles it. I think the battery size is to help keep the weight of the phone down to the 167 grams that it is, but it still works fine. If it isn't enough for you, there is Qualcomm Quick Charge 3.0 for that USB-C port, which will bring you to 100% in less than 2 hours, along with the option for wireless charging. With normal usage and some gaming, making this battery last a day will be pretty easy. Now the funny thing is that this section depends on what phone you have. The US model comes with 2 back cameras, while the international one has 3 sensors. The only thing that the US model is missing is a 12 megapixel telephoto sensor. Not a huge loss, but personally I would take that over the wide angle sensor. So on the right we have a 12 megapixel standard sensor with optical image stabilization. To be fair, I messed up on repairing the back of this, so there will be some sensitivity to light, giving you this kind of halo look. Either way, the images look pretty nice during the day and not too bad at night. Again, ignore the sensitivity to the light, but the night shots here don't really lose too much detail, and they barely give off that pastel look. There is night mode for all the sensors, but I didn't really notice too much of a difference. I'm not a fan of the portrait mode, but it does a decent job at detecting the edges properly. With that said, I'm not a fan of the blur effect from this phone. Next is a 16 megapixel ultra wide angle lens at 107 degrees, which works exactly how you would expect. The sensor color-wise looks very similar to the standard sensor, but struggles with night shots. But that's fairly common on ultra-wide cameras. Video recording isn't that bad, maxing out at 4K 60 frames per second on the standard and wide-angle sensor. However, when you're recording, you can switch from the wide-angle to the standard sensor only in 30 frames per second video, not in 24 or 60 frames per second. Not even in manual video mode, which gives you a lot of recording frame rates. As for the front camera, this is kind of disappointing to me. It's an 8 megapixel sensor, which is fine, and it even focuses. My issue is that the portrait shots are kind of disappointing. First, if there's too much sun, it won't work. Then the blur seems really artificial, even though there's another camera in there for 3D scanning, which should make the portrait shots nicer and more natural. Either way, I'm still kind of surprised that it even focuses. Regardless of which sensor you're using, LG added a lot of options for you to take pictures and videos. Like, a lot. Now this phone seems like a nice, well-rounded phone, but it's kind of a strange one. The first one is the camera sensor availability depending on where you buy this phone. This part is strange to me because it seems like there's no other difference other than the lack of a telephoto sensor. Next, it's the headset jack. Okay, I'm joking, it isn't strange, but the speaker setup is. It is a hard sell for sure, but the phone is special. Let's talk about it first, because it might actually be worth the price. Should you buy the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra 5G? The bottom speaker is alright, but the earpiece loudspeaker just kills it for me. It makes the audio experience so bad. On the back, the glass is flat, even over the cameras. This isn't strange, and neither is a fingerprint scanner on the back, but the other biometrics option is a little bit strange. To preface this, it has gotten better with software updates, but the hand ID is just so strange to me. It scans your hand to get into your phone, and it kind of works, but it's way too temperamental to be a convenient way to get into your phone when compared to face unlock or fingerprint scanning, which this phone has all of those options. This also gives you air motion, which is even more strange. It gives you options like controlling audio and opening apps, and it's just so weird to me, and again, it's not convenient at all. It's kind of like what the Pixel 4 had, but it's a lot more usable on that phone. I also noticed that the software is kind of strange. I noticed some little lag and glitches here and there, but they're not supposed to be normal. For example, turning on and off night mode kind of makes your phone rethink life. That's fine, I guess, but if you have it set on a timer like I do, it can be really strange when the phone transitions. Lastly, we have the side button, which is just for the assistant. That's it. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to do other things, but that's all it does, even with double clicks. There are more strange quirks about this phone, which kind of makes it a weird phone choice for most people. However, we do have the latest version of Android on this phone. So should you buy this phone in 2020? Maybe. There are other options out there and a few variations of this phone. There is the LG G8, G8S, and G8X. Then I have to point out that the LG G8X literally has the same screen as the LG V50S. The G8s vary in a few ways, from camera sensors to screen sizes and resolutions, with the G8 having the best screen, in a sense, but the G8X having the best screen design. Then the G8X has a 4000 mAh battery, while the G8 is a 3500 mAh battery. Really, the G8X seems like a better buy, but they all have Snapdragon 855 chips, 128GB of storage, memory card support, and a headset jack. So you might as well check out all those phones while you're looking at the phone links in the description. Honestly, I liked using this phone, but there's no way I could use this phone over my OnePlus 7 Pro, even though they should be pretty much the same thing spec-wise. But this phone is a lot cheaper than pretty much any Snapdragon 855 phone out there. And that's all I wanted to talk about. Thanks for watching my review of the LG G8 ThinQ. Well, the US version at least. RIP the telephoto sensor. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section or message me on Twitter. I get bored over there. Also, check out the other social media listed above, subscribe and hit the bell button if you like the channel and want to see more videos. Thanks for watching.